Hey guys, I'm Joseph. No, I'm not Joseph Heller, but Joseph Delos Reyes. Speaking of Joseph Heller, he happens to be one of my favorite authors of all time. Before we get into his amazing books, let's talk about his life. Joseph Heller was born on May 1st, 1923, and he lived a wonderful childhood with very little violence. Even though his father died when he was 5 in a surgical operation, he was surrounded by friends and family that loved him very much. Heller was a kid that was free to do whatever he wanted because he lived in a safe neighborhood. A common question asked to writers are, what inspired them to become an author? Heller's inspiration to become a writer started at a very young age. On Heller's 10th birthday, he was given the child's version of Homer's Iliad, and that inspired him to become an author. Heller, unlike most of us, really enjoyed school. Heller would often go to school because he loved taking challenges. Not only did Heller like challenges, but he also went to school because it gave him something to do. In high school and college, he would take classes just to kill time. In all of his years in school, Heller excelled in reading and writing. For example, in middle school, he had to write an essay about Lincoln's assassination. Instead of being John Booth or some ordinary witness, he was in fact the metal of the gun that shot the bullet. Heller was a good child, for he never tried to ditch school even when he could. Heller states, "At 16, one was allowed to quit school, but I never wanted to do anything like that, and neither did any of my friends. Quitting high school would have been a shame to my family and a scandal in the neighborhood. If Joseph Heller were to ditch school, he would remain bored, for he enjoys the challenge that school gave him." Joseph Heller was enlisted in the Army Air Corps right after he graduated from high school, in which he stayed there for 3 years. After being discharged from the military in 1945, Joseph Heller married Shirley Held and went to college. Going into college, Heller maintained his good study habits, for he states, "The thought of cutting classes didn't seriously occur to me in college any more than it did in high school. The temptation to do so, has it arisen, would have tormented me. I enjoyed the work and the classroom competition." The habits that he had developed reflect his writing, for it puts him on task to edit and write his stories. Heller started college in New York University, where he earned a bachelor's degree. He then went to Columbia University, where he earned a master's degree. Then, he went to Oxford for a Fulbright scholarship. After earning that, he became an English lecturer in Pennsylvania State University. While lecturing in Pennsylvania State University, Heller developed ideas for his novel Catch-22, which was then published in 1961. Catch-22 is one of my favorite novels. It tells a story about Yossarian, a US bombardier who is forced to fly missions. Yossarian claims to be a sane person for not wanting to fly any more missions given to him. The more missions Yossarian flies increases the missions needed to leave. What is Catch-22, you ask? Imagine this. You procrastinated until 12 a.m. to finish 2 projects that is due in 7 hours. You can't turn it in late, even if you skip school tomorrow. You have to pick between finishing your history project or your science project, both in which you are borderline passing in. You only have enough time to finish one. Which one will you choose? If you turn in your science project, your history grade will suffer. And the same will happen if you turn in your history project. That is Catch-22. How does Catch-22 work in Joseph Heller's Catch-22, you ask? Catch-22 is a reoccurring motif in the story. Not only does it happen to Yossarian, but it happens to all of the other soldiers in the war. For example, Yossarian borderlines the 40 missions needed to leave the war, but the military then bumps it up to 45, and then 50, and so on. Yossarian is constantly trying to find ways to avoid flying, even resorting to giving the entire crew diarrhea, and insisting to be sick. But one thing Yossarian can't run away from is the fact that he is on the verge of death. In my opinion, Joseph Heller's Catch-22 is an American classic that depicts the elements of Catch-22. So I give it about an 8 Twilight Sparkles out of 10.